Hey, everybody, it's Mike Meyers and Richard Chapman from National Cyber Group here talking about interesting technical topics. Do I believe we got a little EDR in our future here, Richard?
Absolutely. It's fun stuff.
What really is EDR? In the most layman's terms, what is EDR?
It's basically looking at the actions that happen on an endpoint. That's the easiest way I can put it. So when an individual decides to download a malicious file, we can get notification, go and investigate it, make sure that malicious file didn't take hold on that device, and protect the environment, keep it safe.
How's this different from intrusion prevention?
Intrusion prevention is looking more for the signatures, right? It's looking more for different things like remote code executions and so forth, things that kind of match to a particular attack type, right? These are files. These are, malicious files that get downloaded via email or a website or a thumb drive. Somebody sticking a thumb drive into their machine. So it's a little bit different. It's generally going off of the hash initially. So there's a signature first, and then if the signature itself doesn't identify as malicious, then it'll monitor the behavior, so the heuristics. And if it identifies some sort of malicious behavior, then it'll trigger an alert based off of that, so that, again, the analyst can go look at it and make a determination as to whether it's something good or bad.
Okay, so even though when I hear the word endpoint, that could mean a camera to me or, just about anything. But these endpoints obviously have to be storage endpoints, right? Because we're looking at files, correct?
Correct. Laptops, desktops, servers, individual devices that are used by end users most of the time, or, servers and so forth that are responsible for keeping the different tools and systems and stuff up and running in the environment.
Cool. Well, let's get started with my favorite part of these things is show me something cool, Richard.
The show and tell portion. Show and tell
I love this part. This is always fun.
Right? All right, let me do this. Let me share.
Oh no, did I jinx you?
What's that?
Did I jinx you?
No, not at all. I don't think so. I hope not.
That.
All right, so hopefully you can see my SOC dashboard, yeah?
Oh yeah, just my lighting system just decided to land on my head.
Uh-oh. Technical difficulties.
We're good. All right, what do we got, man? What do we got?
All right, so as you've seen before, this is our SOC landing page, and you can see some of the different tools that we use when we're teaching hands-on here at CyberNow Labs. And we're actually going to focus on one of the endpoint detection and response tools that we teach, which is CrowdStrike. And I've already got the CrowdStrike dashboard open. And just like any other tool, a dashboard in essence is giving us a quick way to look at the overall system, the overall environment, and see if there's anything that's standing out as something we want to go look at. So when you see this every day, it makes it really easy to look for things and see things that are out of the ordinary. If you usually have 0 to 1 new detections and all of a sudden you've got 15, well, that's a big red flag, right? If you see there's a lot of activity on a particular device, then you might want to focus on that particular device. So the dashboard gives you that overall pulse. It just lets you kind of get a feel for what's going on in that environment.
Gotcha.
So that being said, I have an alert here. There's a detection that I thought we would take a quick look at. We won't go too terribly deep. We'll just kind of say, I would probably stay a little surface level today, but just to kind of get a feel for the EDR solution and what it does. So first and foremost, what we see when we go into the alert is we see the device, the user, the date, and the time that the alert triggered. We can even see the actual process the process tree that in essence gave us this alert. So when that user was functioning and working on this computer, something happened, some process ran, and when that process ran, something identified as maybe potentially malicious. Again, if it's a signature based, it's going to be probably the hash that's triggering. If it's heuristic, it's going to be the behavior. In this particular case, we can actually see here that 7zg.exe was the process that CrowdStrike said, hey, something that this process was doing, something's not working out right. Something's not aligning properly. And it met and matched with CrowdStrike's capabilities of noticing activities on a device or noticing files on a device and saying, hey, we need to take a look at this. So that's where we are at this particular moment.
All right.
On the right-hand side, we can actually see, currently I have this CrowdStrike notification assigned to myself. I can see where we are in the progress of the investigation, if it's new, if it's being investigated, if it's closed. I can also see the device itself. And you'll also notice too that there's two buttons here, which are my favorite, network contain and connect to a host. So in essence, what I can do is if I identify that this is a malicious situation and CrowdStrike maybe didn't take any action, I can actually contain this device. I can take it offline so that device doesn't have any communication with anything other than the CrowdStrike management dashboard, which is pretty cool. It's a little bit of power, and some people have more capabilities of having access to that power than others, but it is really nice to be able to say, hey, this device is clearly compromised. We're going to go ahead and contain it and protect our environment. The challenge there is not containing something like a server that's responsible for
understood.
Data and everything that we need to be able to function every day, right? So that's
so that contain. When you say network contain, it's basically going to turn off a port someplace, right?
In essence, it makes that device only able to communicate with the CrowdStrike management console. That's it. It can't go to the internet. It can't reach out to another device in the network. It's completely contained. It's like they put it in a Faraday cage, almost. There's one pathway out, and that's to the management console with CrowdStrike. So.
Is this particular case? Is this a physical machine?
This is a physical machine. This machine itself actually identified as having 7ZG. Which are you familiar with 7ZG? Do you know what it is?
I've heard the name, but I don't remember exactly what it is.
Okay, so this is one of the nice things about what we do as well too. If that's something that you're not familiar with, we teach analysts how to go and figure that out. And the cool thing is, it's literally just as straightforward and simple as going, what is 7zg.exe, right?
I've done this a few billion times in my life.
Right, Google everything, right? Right here you can see 7zg. The files most often belongs to 7-zip. And if you don't know what 7-zip is, it's a compression application, right?
Yep.
So that tells us that there was some sort of file that was more than likely either being or probably being uncompressed or decompressed, unzipped, right? And when that file unzipped, CrowdStrike saw something that triggered it. Now, over here on the right-hand side, not only can we see the date and the time, the machine name, the username, but we can also see how CrowdStrike is looking at this information, how it looks at it as a type of detection, what it used to determine what kind of file this was. And also it even gives us a link here to the actual IOC, which in this case is a SHA. I love the short quick access buttons here, or the little shortcuts here. This first one, if I click on this shortcut, it's going to take me to a very well-known open source intelligence tool called Virustotal. And you can see that this is the file that actually triggered the alert. CrowdStrike, when it was doing its signature-based detections, recognized that hash and said, wait a minute, this is a malicious file. And this open source intelligence, we see a kind of I guess you could say a pretty consistent listing of maybe Trojan. Let's see, I'm not seeing any Artemis, so that could be a little bit of an indication as to what kind of malicious file this is. We also have community information where we can go and look at information here. This is actually, looks like somebody shared about 4 hours ago, somebody actually shared a sandbox result and some sandbox reports for this particular file hash. And it's also listing this as an agent Tesla. So that's pretty specific. So that gives us some very good intelligence that we can go out and go, okay, what is Agent Tesla? What does it do? What type of activities would it carry out in our environment? And at the same time, we can also see here, if CrowdStrike had taken action, we would see a cool little green badge here. And that would say that CrowdStrike said, hey, wait a minute, not only is this malicious, but we're going to stop this as well. Now, this didn't do that because I actually set this device to detect only so that I could go and download this malicious file. And I'll tell you, it's actually quite difficult to forcefully download malicious files and
Yes, it
have
is.
them not get blocked by the browser or by your antivirus or by some sort of security feature, right? It takes a lot of steps to make sure I can actually get them downloaded so we can see them for you today on this video. But in essence, normally when CrowdStrike saw that malicious hash, it would block it. It would immediately, quarantine that file, not allow it to execute, and it would shove it into a protected file so that an individual couldn't go and double click on that file and then run it. So we can see the file path and the command line. So that tells us, what ran here. Because the file didn't execute, because this file was recognized when it came out of the zip file, that we don't have a command line for that file. It did not execute. Just 7-zip executed to unzip that file. And when it unzipped that file and unpackaged it, it said, hey, wait a minute, there's a file here that is malicious. And that's when it created that alert for us. So very cool to be able to see that and see how that transpired on that computer and be able to understand exactly what happened and not just have that practical knowledge, but have that hands-on knowledge here as well. And we can even see a lot of other things too, like the user details again in more depth, the IP address, we'd be able to see that. The host details, any disk operations that were involved during that process. And in some of your more intense investigations, you'd have a lot more things too that get a little juicy, like registry entries, maybe some different processes that ran as well, other spawned processes. So it gets pretty in depth and pretty in detail. And we have a lot of fun with endpoint detection and response in the environment, but it is a fantastic tool to be able to keep environments safe. And that's one of the tools that we teach here in our hands-on program.
Well, it's very cool, man. Well, I love seeing these amazing toys. CrowdStrike is certainly pretty well known, but to see it even in a small function like this, where it's just detecting malware with inside a compressed file, that's pretty cool. Yeah. And I think another thing, because I'm more of the home user, the Soho user. So when I'm looking at this, because the next question I want to ask you, do we have time for me to throw one more question?
Yeah, go for it.
So where's their anti-malware on this endpoint? You shouldn't see this, right?
Yeah, so in most devices, especially in a secure environment, you're going to have an antivirus, you're going to have maybe Windows Defender, you're going to have obviously, security items in place. And EDR is really kind of an enterprise level antivirus software on steroids. That's probably an easy way to look at it. So at home, you'd have maybe Norton Antivirus, McAfee, AVG, something like that. And when it saw that same hash, it theoretically, if your database is up to date in that tool, it should also recognize that malicious file and quarantine that file as well. So you'd have the same kind of result. Again, the reason why CrowdStrike didn't do anything here was because I told it not to.
Gotcha, right. I understand.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I could go to that device and actually execute that file right now. I could legitimately go to that folder, double click on that malicious file and actually let it execute and be able to see even more. I could actually see what that malicious file would do, like where potentially it might make network connections to, registry changes it might make, all different kinds of activities that file would do and be able to document that even further.
All right. It's absolutely fascinating. What a great tool. Well,
I love EDR. EDR is fun, actually.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like electronic dance recording or something like that. You had every time I have been in this industry, and I think I learned a lot of acronyms. There's always more.
There's definitely always more.
There's a lot more.
And people like to make it their own too. So
yeah, that's very true. Well, anyway, Richard, thanks again, man. What an amazing tool that you guys use. Folks, these are the tools that you'll be learning about at CyberNow Labs. And you'll be working with somebody like Richard, or even possibly more attractive than Richard. And not as
hopefully
smart.
More.
Richard, you are an instructor with CyberNow Labs, right?
I am. I'm the cybersecurity program director, but I also function within the instructor realm as well too. So I help to teach people how to do this. So step by step.
As much as I love doing videos and books, I miss teaching so bad. I really do miss it. A lot of fun.
Teaching is fun. I do enjoy it. I enjoy the light bulb moments Those are my favorite. When somebody
Absolutely.
doesn't understand something and you change it and you give them a little bit different way to look at it, and they have that moment where they go, those light bulb
Oh
moments are
yeah.
very rewarding. I love them.
Of course, then there's also the what I call rocks with eyes. And that's when you'll
Okay.
have an entire classroom of people going, whatever you just said didn't work. But, yeah, yeah, but when it goes over all their heads, that just means you aim too high.
Well,
So
that's one of the reasons why I love it when analysts have their cameras on our online classes, because our sessions, it does allow me to monitor their facial reactions, their response. If they look like this, then I kind of have the idea. If they're going, then I can tell they like it, they understand it, they get it. So yeah, it definitely helps. You can read people.
very good. Well, Richard, thank you so much. And thank you for introducing me to CrowdStrike.
My pleasure as always. Good seeing you again. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll see you soon.
All right, Richard. Thank you, sir.